Hey guys, it's Brittany with Lester Family Baby Farm, and I'm here to refilm our December medicated cycle. And since I filmed the first one, I've also got the results, so I will tell you those at the end of this video. So let's just kind of get into it. I had my medication demonstration the end of November, after I received the ginormous package of medications, and we just kind of went over everything, all the meds, when to take them, how to take them, the shots, how to take those, how to switch out cartridges. And at that appointment, I also got a calendar to kind of tell me every day what to take, how much, when to rotate meds, and kind of give me a guideline of what my December will look like. So I went in for my baseline ultrasound December 5th, and at that point I had been off of birth control for about 8 days, and during that time I took what I personally call my everyday pills, and I'll go over those. With my everyday pills, I take magnesium because I am deficient in that. I also take baby aspirin every day. I take vitamin D because I am borderline lacking in that. I take Folby, and I'm not even really sure what this is for, but my doctor said take it every day. And I switched out prenatals because the prenatals I was taking didn't have enough folic acid or DHA. And so after a couple of trial and error of different prenatals, because some of them were just god awful, you know what I'm talking about, that fishy kind of yucky taste, we switched. I finally found these ones. These are OB Complete Gold, and they kind of have a vanilla taste, and I really like these. I've had since I've been on these over a month now, I've noticed my hair necessarily isn't growing like crazy, but my nails are super long, aren't peeling, aren't breaking, are super strong, or super shiny. So, and I also take a probiotic, but I keep that in the refrigerator. So I take these every day. So in those 8 days from stopping the birth control until December 5th, that's all I took. And the morning of December 5th, we did the ultrasound. We checked my ovaries to see if there was any cysts. We checked my uterus. We checked the lining, and everything looked good. And at that appointment, you could see small little follicles starting to develop on each one. And there was probably 5 at least on each one. And at that appointment, we went ahead and said, okay, we will start the follistim that night. And the follistim is the hormones that will help my follicles grow and produce. And I started that night, and I did 225 units, and it really isn't that bad. My doctor prescribes like the cartridges and the pin and all that. Oh, I better grab that. So that night we did follistim. It's this little pin. The needles are, it's like idiot proof pretty much for us. You just take the wrapper off, screw the needle on, and you pull the plastic piece off, and it has this handy dandy little dial. You just dial it to what you need, and then you would push the blue button. So we started that December 5th, and it was really easy. Jeremy helped me with it because at first you kind of get like I personally get this like anticipating poking yourself with a needle. It doesn't seem that bad until you have to do it. And it really isn't that bad. And I noticed, tip, if you let this not completely come to room temperature, but just like warm up some from being in the fridge because it has to be refrigerated. If you let it warm up some, it doesn't burn as much. And I didn't find that out until like a week into it. And I was like, why is this burning so bad? And someone was like, it's cold. So we did follistim Monday and Tuesday, and then Wednesday I went back in for another follicle scan and blood work. And at that one, you could see multiple follicles starting to grow. There were, they kind of like grouped together. There would be like I think there was like a bunch of like 7s, like an 8, and then like almost a 9, and then like a bunch of 5s, and the lining was starting to like really progress. I want to say it was about 8 millimeters, and typically doctors want to see it at 8 millimeters at ovulation, and I had only been on these meds for 3 days, and it was already there. So that was nice to know that we didn't have to worry about it. After the results of the blood work, he said go ahead and continue with the same dosage. So we did 225 Wednesday and Thursday, and then Friday morning, the 9th, we went back in for another follicle scan and blood work. At that scan, you could really tell that things were starting to pick up. I had lots of follicles. I had a follicle that was like 13.5. I had some 12s, and then I had a bunch of 10s. And the lining at that point was about 13 millimeters. So you could tell that I was responding really, really well. I got a call that afternoon. They said everything looks good. Continue 225 units of Follistim, and then we will see you Monday. So over the weekend, I could just feel like my ovaries were getting heavier and heavier. They felt swollen, and I could definitely tell you exactly where in my body they were. So Monday morning we went in for the scan, and I was excited until she started scanning, and then I got a little nervous because there were follicles everywhere, and they were massive. So at that appointment, I had a 19, I had a 17, and then like 2 15s, and that was on my left. On my right, I had like an 18, and then like 3 15s. And I knew anything over 15 millimeters is considered mature, that there is a likelihood that that follicle will release an egg for ovulation. And then out of those, I had about 30 more follicles that were 15 millimeters and less. And so I was a little concerned, like, that the doctor could possibly cancel the cycle because the risk of a higher multiples was very real. And so I was worried that we had just spent all this money and all this time and all this energy just to be canceled. The lady who did the scan that morning said that I definitely would be a great candidate for IVF because I have tons of eggs. And she actually asked me if that's what we were doing at first, and I was like, nope, just timed intercourse. And she was like, well, you've got a lot to pick from. So surprisingly, that Monday afternoon, they called and said, yes, you can continue the cycle, but we are going to switch your trigger shot, which triggers ovulation, from the Overdrill, which is HCG, to Lupron, which is just a different hormone, basically. And they wanted me to lower my Follistim that night to 150, and then trigger Tuesday night at 8 o'clock, and then come in Wednesday morning, the 14th, exactly 12 hours after I triggered, to check the blood to make sure that there was enough of the hormone that it would have caused ovulation. So we did that. Tuesday night, we did the trigger. And the funny story with the trigger is, when I looked at my meds and went over everything with the demonstration, I thought I had a pretty good idea of everything, and then that night came along and I was terrified. This is the trigger shot, but when I got it, there wasn't a needle attached. There was like this green plunger thing, and then I panicked. I was like, you can't give a shot without a needle. And so I panicked and called my friend and who works in the medical field, and I was like, do you just like put a needle on I have other syringes and needles, and so I was like, do you just put the needle in and suck it out? Actually, this is the needle, the medicine. And I thought, oh, we'll just put it in the plunger and suck it out. And we tried that, and it didn't work. And then I was like terrified if we unscrewed the blue plunger that all the meds were just going to fall out. So I very carefully unscrewed the blue plunger and just screwed on a needle. And that's all I had to do. But this one, actually doesn't go in the stomach. This one went in the muscle of your buttocks, and it really wasn't that bad because I've had the progesterone before in the muscle, and that one hurts, and this one wasn't bad at all. So we did that Tuesday. That Wednesday we went for blood work. They called and said everything looks great. Just continue to follow your calendar and move everything up a day because my ovulation was moved up. And just follow the calendar and do what it says. So I did that. That Friday I started all of my estrogen supplements, and that would have been Esterol, and I took these 4 times a day. This is where it's going to get complicated. I took these 4 times a day by mouth, and then the other thing I took was the transdermal patches. I know I have an open one. Here it is. These patches at first were not that bad, and I had to put 5 of them on every other day. But after putting, this is one of them, so you put 5. So they're not ginormous, but they probably take up the space of like this on your stomach. They are so incredibly sticky, which I guess is the purpose so they don't come off, that when I would have to rotate them every other day, I was ripping my skin off. I tried taking them off in the shower. I tried using baby oil. I tried using coconut oil. I tried using olive oil. I tried soaking in the tub with olive oil, and it didn't matter. They were gonna hurt. And where they would rip off the skin, around the edge, it would leave like this gooey, sticky, Band-Aid type yuckiness. And I had to do this every other day for 3 weeks. The final time I changed these, my skin actually bled. And I was just like, I'm over it. I don't care anymore. I don't want to take these anymore. But these weren't even the worst of it for medications. But I started both of these, plus all my everyday meds, that Friday after ovulation. And let's just talk about ovulation for a second. I've ovulated before on fertility meds. I've ovulated before with Follistim. I have never ovulated 7 mature eggs. When I ovulated before, I had maybe 1 or 2. This time I had 7 that were considered mature enough. It was one of the most painful experiences ever. I've given birth 3 times now, natural, and this was on that kind of level. I would have easily given this a 6 out of 10 of pain. And my last birth, I would have only given a 7. So that just kind of gives you an idea of how painful it was. We had the kids' Christmas parties that day, and so I was trying to be super mom and go do all those things while ovulating 7 eggs, and it was excruciating. I couldn't stand up straight. I was sweating. I was walking like an old lady. I could just feel the heaviness of everything, and so it just was not pleasant. Ovulating 7 eggs is no joke. So, yes, so we've ovulation, estrogen, and then Sunday, I started progesterone. 2 supplements. These are vaginal supplements, and I've taken another kind. They were like an egg type capsule almost, and I preferred these. These are actually a tablet, which I was surprised of, and you kind of see. So it's a tablet, a hard tablet, and I took these 3 times a day, and it comes, each box comes with its meds and then all its applicators, and you take these vaginally 3 times a day, and I really preferred these. I like these a lot. Kind of TMI, the other ones are kind of gooey, and so it just kind of turns into a mess all day, but these, I didn't really have any problems. And then this was my least favorite of my post-ovulation meds. These are Prometrium. And on the bottle, it warns that they can cause dizziness and drowsiness. And most people will have meds that have these warnings and they have no issues. I had terrible issues with these. These are a nightmare, and I had to take these 4 times a day. I did notice that I didn't have as many side effects if I ate a full meal and then took one. If I had just kind of a skimpy meal even, or just tried to take a snack and then take them, I had terrible dizziness. It was almost like when you're drunk and you have the spins and you're like trying to hold on to the earth so you don't fly away. Yeah, that's what it's like. So you feel drunk without ever being drunk, and you don't get to do any of like the fun buzz party stuff. You just skip straight to the spins. And so I did not like them. I would get kind of woozy, and it would just, the whole room would kind of start to wibble and wobble, and I would just feel lightheaded. So I absolutely hated those. I eventually started to set an alarm in the middle of the night and try taking them that way so I could just be asleep through it all. So those were a nightmare also, and I took those for the 3 weeks. Because of the holidays, they were actually closed. Typically, you would go 2 weeks to the day after ovulation. So that had been 36 hours after my trigger. So that had been Thursday was ovulation. Thursday the 15th. I should have gone in January 29th for my beta blood work. But because of the holidays, I had to wait until the 3rd of January. I will go ahead and say during this whole time, I took a pregnancy test every morning. Every morning, first thing, and I bought the bulk internet cheapies offline, and I have, of course, a few others. And I kind of had a feeling the whole time that I just didn't feel pregnant. I've been pregnant 4 times. Each time you kind of just, I get sick every time. I've just felt pregnant, and I just wasn't feeling pregnant. And probably a day or 2 after Christmas, I started to be like, I don't think this worked. And so I continued to test and continued to get negatives. And so going in on Tuesday for the blood work, I kind of already knew it didn't work. And I had made an executive decision on Sunday that I was done with the patches. I was done with the spins. When the patches ripped off all my skin and I was bleeding, and of course I have stretch marks from my previous children, and they were all inflamed, and I was just like, I cannot put on another patch when I know in my heart it didn't work. At that point, I was considered like 5 days late from my missed period. I was 3 days past the 14 days after ovulation. So I made an executive decision, and I stopped all of the meds. And within about 16 hours, I started a period, and I knew it. And it's taken some time to kind of process everything. I know we have a male factor now, which is something different we're dealing with. But it's just kind of hard to think that we had 35 follicles, 7 of which were mature, and not one of them worked. It's more eggs than some women make in 4 years. And I just feel like we wasted them. So, we go back Tuesday the 10th to talk with the doctor kind of about everything. Figure out why none of the 7 mature eggs stuck around, to see how, was it really just a number game? Because even when everything is perfect, you only have a 25% chance typically, all the way up to like a 35% chance. So there's still a huge chance that it won't work. So if it was simply just a numbers game, then it's just the numbers, and we'll just have to keep playing it until the numbers play in our favor. But I want to know how bad off we are with just doing time intercourse versus possibly doing IUI. So we will figure that out on Tuesday, January 10th. And then the way my doctor does it, he only does IVF 1 month, and then the next month he will do IUI or timed intercourse. So for the whole month of January, he's doing IVF. And so all of us other gals and girls and families are stuck on birth control. And I will start taking that today, actually. So it's kind of a blessing in disguise. It ties my hands and makes a decision for me, because I definitely think we maybe need some time to rest. I had a lot of weight gain over the process, and so I would like to lose that weight and maybe lose a couple more Christmas pounds. And I think just emotionally we just need some time. I know the chances of it working the first time are pretty astronomical, but when it's your family you're trying for and it's that child, it doesn't make it feel any better when it doesn't work. So that is the plan. December cycle was a bust. Didn't work. We will try again. We've decided to throw our timeline completely out the window. We said we wanted to be done getting pregnant by the time we're 30, and I'm about to turn 29, and Jeremy is 29, and we want 2 more children, and so our timeline doesn't fit up with what we want. And so we've decided to just kind of turn it over to God and the universe, and we're playing on his rules because he controls it anyway. So I guess that's it for now, and stay tuned because we will vlog between now and then, but I will definitely vlog what we decide to do for our February cycle. So that's it, guys. Thank you. If you follow us on Facebook, like this. If you follow us on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, and don't forget to follow and subscribe. Bye, guys.